What's up, trainers? Welcome back to PokePlayLab_DBSHQ, your home for elite Pokemon TCG strategy, competitive deck profiles, and master-level deck builds. Today, we're breaking down a brand new master deck build featuring the incredible duo of Mega Slowbro X and Gourgeist X. This deck combines powerful synergy, incredible disruption, and outstanding board control to keep your opponent on the defensive from start to finish. Whether you're grinding the rank ladder or competing at your local league challenge, this deck has the tools to steal games and surprise even the toughest matchups. If you're a fellow content creator, drop your YouTube channel in the comments. I'd love to check out your content and support others who are helping grow the Pokemon TCG community. Also, don't forget to visit the community tab to vote in the latest image poll, and check out the announcements playlist for tournament news, raffles, giveaways, and everything happening here on the channel. If you'd like to support the channel, you can donate through the Cash App link on my YouTube page. Every bit of support helps me continue testing new decks, creating better guides, and bringing you more competitive Pokemon TCG content. Now, enough talking. Let's jump into today's deck profile and see why Mega Slowbro X and Gourgeist X might be one of the most underrated combinations in the current meta. Stay sharp, stay awesome, and as always, keep playing. Alright, let's kick things off with 4 copies of Slowpoke, our basic Psychic-type Pokemon with 70 HP. Since Slowpoke evolves into Mega Slowbro X, it's one of the most important Pokemon in the deck, so you'll want to get it into play as early as possible. Slowpoke has 2 attacks. The first is All You Can Yeet, which costs 1 Psychic Energy. This attack lets you discard any number of cards from your hand. While it doesn't deal damage, it can actually be useful in certain situations. It allows you to discard cards you want in the discard pile, making it easier to recover them later with cards that recycle Pokemon, energy, or other resources. It can also help you get rid of dead cards that aren't useful in the current matchup. Its second attack is Headbutt, which costs 2 colorless energy and deals 20 damage. You're rarely attacking with Slowpoke, but if you're forced to go first or need a quick attack before evolving, Headbutt gives you a way to apply a little early game pressure. As for its stats, Slowpoke has a ×2 weakness to Darkness-type Pokemon, a -30 resistance to Fighting-type Pokemon, a retreat cost of 2 colorless energy, and, most importantly, it serves as the foundation for getting Mega Slowbro X into play as quickly and consistently as possible. Next up, we have 4 copies of Slowbro, the Stage 1 evolution of Slowpoke. It's a Psychic-type Pokemon with 130 HP, and while its main purpose is to evolve into Mega Slowbro X, it can still be a surprisingly strong attacker when the situation calls for it. Slowbro has 2 attacks. The first is All Out, which costs 1 Psychic Energy and deals 50 damage. However, if you have no cards in your hand, the attack does 160 additional damage, bringing the total to 210 damage. That's enough to knock out many Pokemon X in today's format for the cost of just a single energy. While getting your hand down to 0 isn't always easy, this deck has several ways to burn through cards, making this attack a legitimate threat that your opponent has to respect. Its second attack is Zen Headbutt, which costs 3 colorless energy and deals 110 damage. It's a simple, reliable attack, but in most games you'll be looking to evolve into Mega Slowbro X before relying on it. Still, if you're unable to find your evolution pieces right away, Zen Headbutt gives you a solid backup option to keep applying pressure. Looking at its stats, Slowbro has a ×2 weakness to Darkness-type Pokemon, a -30 resistance to Fighting-type Pokemon, and a retreat cost of 3 colorless energy. Overall, Slowbro isn't just an evolution step, it can function as a respectable secondary attacker while setting up the deck's true win condition, Mega Slowbro X. Next up, we have 4 copies of Mega Slowbro X, the star of the deck and the Pokemon you'll be building your entire strategy around. This is a Mega Evolution Psychic-type Pokemon with an incredible 330 HP, making it one of the bulkiest attackers in the format and extremely difficult for opponents to knock out in a single hit. Mega Slowbro X has 1 attack, Shellnado Spin, which costs 3 Psychic Energy and deals 180 damage. While 180 damage is already respectable, the real power of this attack comes from its incredible defensive effect. During your opponent's next turn, if Mega Slowbro X is damaged by an attack, even if it's knocked out, you place 12 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. That's 120 damage reflected back onto your opponent's active Pokemon, which can completely change the momentum of the game. Many opponents are forced into an awkward decision: either attack into Mega Slowbro X and risk losing their own attacker, or avoid attacking altogether and give you another turn to keep applying pressure. This effect makes Mega Slowbro X incredibly difficult to deal with. Thanks to its massive 330 HP, your opponent often has to commit multiple resources just to take it down, and when they finally do, they're usually punished with a huge amount of return damage. That combination of high durability, consistent damage output, and built-in retaliation makes Mega Slowbro X one of the biggest threats in this deck. Looking at its stats, Mega Slowbro X has a ×2 weakness to Darkness-type Pokémon, a -30 resistance to Fighting-type Pokémon, and a retreat cost of 3 colorless energy. Overall, this is the deck's primary win condition, the Pokémon you'll rely on to control the board, force difficult decisions, and overwhelm your opponent as the game goes on. Next up, we have 4 copies of Pumpkaboo, a basic Psychic-type Pokémon with 60 HP. Just like Slowpoke, Pumpkaboo's primary job isn't to attack, it's to get onto the field as quickly as possible so you can evolve into one of the deck's other key attackers, Gourgeist X. Pumpkaboo has one attack, Stampede, which costs 1 psychic energy and deals 20 damage. While the damage output is fairly low, the attack can still be useful in the early game if you're forced to go first or don't have your evolution pieces yet. Every bit of early damage can help set up knockouts later once your stronger Pokémon hit the field. Looking at its stats, Pumpkaboo has a ×2 weakness to Darkness-type Pokémon, a -30 resistance to Fighting-type Pokémon, and a retreat cost of 2 colorless energy. Overall, you're not including Pumpkaboo in this deck because of its attack, you're playing it because it's the foundation for getting Gourgeist X into play. Getting Pumpkaboo down early means you can evolve quickly, establish your board, and begin applying pressure with one of the deck's most disruptive Pokémon. Every successful evolution starts with Pumpkaboo, making all 4 copies essential for maximizing consistency. Next up, we have 3 copies of Gourgeist X, the Stage 1 evolution of Pumpkaboo. It's a Psychic-type Pokémon with 270 HP, and it serves as the deck's powerful secondary attacker. While Mega Slowbro X is your primary win condition, Gourgeist X gives you another threat that can deal massive damage while disrupting your opponent's game plan. Its first attack is Horrifying Rondo, which costs just 1 psychic energy and deals 30 damage. On top of that, the attack does 50 more damage for each of your benched Pokémon that has any damage counters on it. In this deck, that's much easier to accomplish than it might seem. As your Pokémon take damage throughout the game, Gourgeist X can turn that damage into extra offensive power, allowing it to reach impressive damage numbers for only a single energy attachment. The longer the game goes, the more threatening this attack becomes. Its second attack is Ghostly Touch, which costs 2 psychic energy and deals 140 damage. After dealing damage, your opponent must discard a random card from their hand. That's what makes this attack so frustrating to play against. Not only are you putting consistent damage on the board, but you're also disrupting your opponent's resources. They could lose an important evolution card, a key supporter, an energy, or another combo piece they were saving for their next turn. That kind of hand disruption can completely throw off your opponent's strategy and give you a huge advantage. Looking at its stats, Gourgeist X has a ×2 weakness to Darkness-type Pokémon, a -30 resistance to Fighting-type Pokémon, and a retreat cost of 2 colorless energy, making it a little easier to retreat than Mega Slowbro X when you need to reposition your board. Overall, Gourgeist X is much more than a backup attacker. It provides strong damage, scales throughout the game, and pressures your opponent by stripping away cards from their hand. When paired with Mega Slowbro X's incredible durability and retaliatory damage, Gourgeist X helps create a strategy that's difficult for opponents to play around. Together, these 2 Pokémon force tough decisions every turn and can quickly take control of the game. Next up, we have 2 copies of Deoxys, a basic Psychic-type Pokémon with 110 HP. Deoxys plays an important support role in this deck by helping accelerate energy early in the game while also providing a solid secondary attacker when the matchup calls for it. Its first attack is Genome Charge, which costs just 1 colorless energy. This attack lets you search your deck for up to 2 basic psychic energy and attach them directly to Deoxys before shuffling your deck. This is an excellent setup attack because it allows Deoxys to power itself up in a single turn without relying on multiple manual energy attachments. By accelerating energy this way, you can prepare Deoxys to attack quickly while continuing to build the rest of your board. Its second attack is Psychic, which costs 2 psychic energy and 1 colorless energy. It deals 80 base damage, plus 20 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokémon. This makes Deoxys especially effective against decks that stack multiple energy onto one attacker. The more energy your opponent commits, the harder Deoxys hits, allowing it to punish greedy energy investments and potentially score important knockouts. Looking at its stats, Deoxys has a ×2 weakness to Darkness-type Pokémon, a -30 resistance to Fighting-type Pokémon, and a retreat cost of just 1 colorless energy, making it much easier to move in and out of the active spot compared to your heavier attackers. Overall, Deoxys gives this deck valuable flexibility. It helps accelerate energy in the early game, threatens opponents who overload energy onto a single Pokémon, and provides another reliable attacker when Mega Slowbro X or Gourgeist X aren't the best options. Having that extra layer of versatility makes the deck more consistent and much harder for opponents to predict. Next, we have 4 copies of Xerosics Machinations, one of the strongest disruption supporters in this deck. Rather than helping your own setup, this card focuses on tearing apart your opponent's game plan. When you play Xerosics Machinations, your opponent must discard cards from their hand until they have only 3 cards remaining. In today's meta, where many decks rely on holding multiple combo pieces, evolution cards, energy, and key supporters, reducing your opponent to just 3 cards can completely disrupt their next turn. What makes this card even better is its synergy with Gourgeist X. Gourgeist X's Ghostly Touch attack deals 140 damage and then forces your opponent to discard a random card from their hand. By playing Xerosics Machinations first, you shrink your opponent's hand down to only 3 cards. Then, when Gourgeist X attacks, that random discard becomes much more impactful because your opponent has fewer cards to protect. There's a much higher chance they'll lose an important evolution card, Boss's Orders, Rare Candy, Energy, or another key combo piece they were planning to use. This combination creates constant pressure. You're not only damaging your opponent's Pokémon, you're also attacking their resources and limiting the number of options they have every turn. Many games are won simply because your opponent can't find the cards they need to respond. In a deck built around bulky attackers like Mega Slowbro X and disruptive threats like Gourgeist X, Xerosics Machinations fits perfectly. Mega Slowbro X forces your opponent into difficult attacks because of its retaliation effect, while Gourgeist X punishes their hand. Xerosics Machinations amplifies that strategy by making every discard even more devastating. That's why we're playing 4 copies. We want to see this card as early and as often as possible. The earlier you start disrupting your opponent's hand, the harder it becomes for them to establish their board, recover from knockouts, or execute their strategy. Next up, we have 4 copies of Jacynth, one of the most important supporters in the deck because it dramatically increases the survivability of your psychic Pokémon. When you play Jacynth, you heal 150 damage from one of your psychic Pokémon. Healing 150 damage is a huge swing in today's meta, especially when many decks are built around taking knockouts in 2 attacks. By removing that much damage, you can force your opponent to spend another turn attacking the same Pokémon, buying yourself valuable time to stay ahead. This card is especially powerful with Mega Slowbro EX. With its massive 330 HP, Mega Slowbro X is already difficult to knock out. When you combine that high HP with Jacynth's 150-point heal, it becomes even harder for your opponent to take prize cards efficiently. Many opponents will invest multiple turns and valuable resources trying to bring down Mega Slowbro X, only to watch you erase a large portion of the damage they worked so hard to deal. Jacynth also works well with Gourgeist EX, allowing you to keep another high HP attacker on the field longer and continue applying pressure instead of having to replace it with another Pokémon. Overall, Jacynth perfectly complements this deck's strategy. The goal isn't just to hit hard, it's to make your Pokémon incredibly difficult to remove from the board. Every time you heal 150 damage, you're forcing your opponent to commit even more attacks and resources, while giving yourself extra turns to deal damage, disrupt their hand, and stay in control of the game. That's exactly why we're playing 4 copies. We want to see this card consistently throughout the game, because keeping our main attackers alive is one of the biggest reasons this deck is able to outlast and overwhelm opponents. Next up, we have 2 copies of Wally's Compassion, a powerful healing supporter that can completely change the outcome of a game when used at the right time. When you play Wally's Compassion, you heal all damage from one of your Mega Evolution Pokémon X. That's right, all damage is removed, allowing a heavily damaged Mega Pokémon to return to full health. However, there's a trade-off. If you heal any damage this way, you must put all energy attached to that Pokémon back into your hand. At first glance, that drawback might seem significant, but in many situations it's actually worth it. If your Mega Slowbro X has taken 250 or 300 damage and is about to be knocked out, fully healing it denies your opponent prize cards and forces them to start all over again. Although you'll need to reattach your energy, keeping your main attacker on the field is often much more valuable than losing it. This card works especially well with Mega Slowbro X because of its incredible 330 HP. Your opponent usually has to invest multiple attacks to bring it close to a knockout. Wally's Compassion completely erases all of that progress, forcing them to spend even more turns trying to deal with the same Pokémon. That can completely shift the momentum of the game in your favor. The energy returning to your hand isn't always a downside either. Since the energy isn't discarded, you still have access to it and can begin reattaching it on future turns. In the right situation, that's a much better outcome than losing both your Pokémon and all of its attached energy. That's why we're playing 2 copies instead of 4. Wally's Compassion is a powerful situational card. You don't need it every game, but when your Mega Slowbro X is on the verge of being knocked out, this supporter can completely reset the board and force your opponent to fight through another 330 HP all over again. Next up, we have 4 copies of Boss's Orders, one of the strongest and most important supporter cards in the Pokémon TCG. This card gives you complete control over your opponent's board by letting you switch one of your opponent's benched Pokémon into the active spot. The power of Boss's Orders is that it allows you to choose exactly what you want to attack. Instead of wasting damage on a bulky active Pokémon, you can target vulnerable Pokémon on the bench, such as low HP basics, support Pokémon, or an evolution your opponent is still trying to set up. Boss's Orders also lets you pick off damaged Pokémon before your opponent has a chance to heal them or retreat them to safety. Taking those easy prize cards can completely change the pace of the game and put your opponent under even more pressure. This card works especially well with Mega Slowbro X and Gourgeist X. Mega Slowbro X consistently applies heavy damage and forces your opponent into difficult decisions, while Gourgeist X disrupts your opponent's hand with Ghostly Touch. Boss's Orders lets you capitalize on that pressure by bringing up the exact Pokémon you want to knock out, preventing your opponent from hiding key attackers or support Pokémon on the bench. Whether you're taking your final prize cards, eliminating an important support Pokémon, or stopping your opponent from setting up their strategy, Boss's Orders is often the card that wins games. It gives you the flexibility to control the flow of the match instead of letting your opponent decide what you attack. That's why we're playing 4 copies. Seeing Boss's Orders consistently throughout the game gives you more opportunities to take key knockouts, disrupt your opponent's setup, and stay in control from start to finish. Next up, we have 3 copies of Dawn, one of the deck's most important consistency supporters. Rather than disrupting your opponent, Dawn helps you build your board by searching for the exact evolution pieces you need. When you play Dawn, you search your deck for 1 basic Pokémon, 1 Stage 1 Pokémon, and 1 Stage 2 Pokémon, reveal them, and put them into your hand. Then, you shuffle your deck. Even though this deck doesn't always need a Stage 2 Pokémon, Dawn is still incredibly valuable because it lets you grab multiple Pokémon with a single supporter. Instead of relying on top decking the right cards, Dawn allows you to search for the Pokémon that best fit the current situation. Early in the game, Dawn helps you establish your board by finding Slowpoke and Pumpkaboo, along with their evolution lines, so you can start setting up Mega Slowbro X and Gourgeist X as quickly as possible. Later in the game, it can search for replacement attackers after one of your Pokémon is knocked out, helping you maintain pressure without missing a beat. Consistency is one of the biggest factors in competitive Pokémon TCG, and Dawn greatly improves that consistency by giving you reliable access to your key Pokémon exactly when you need them. Instead of hoping to draw into the right evolution pieces, you simply search them out and keep your strategy moving forward. That's why we're playing 3 copies. It gives us a strong chance of finding Dawn early in the game without overcrowding the deck with too many supporters, making our setup faster, smoother, and much more reliable. Next up, we have 4 copies of Poképad, a consistency item card that helps you find your non-rule box Pokémon and keeps your setup as smooth as possible. When you play Poképad, you search your deck for a Pokémon that doesn't have a rule box, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. A rule box is found on powerful Pokémon like Pokémon X, Pokémon V, and other special Pokémon. Since those cards have rule boxes, Poképad can't search for them. Instead, it's used to find the supporting Pokémon that make your deck function. In this deck, Poképad is an excellent way to search for Slowpoke, Slowbro, Pumpkaboo, Deoxys, or any other non-rule box Pokémon you need to continue your setup. Whether you're missing your opening basic Pokémon or looking for the next evolution in your line, Poképad gives you direct access without having to rely on your next draw. One of the biggest strengths of Poképad is that it's an item card, not a supporter. That means you can play it alongside powerful supporters like Boss's Orders, Xerozic's Machinations, or Jacynth during the same turn, making your plays much more efficient. That's why we're playing 4 copies. The more consistently you can find your setup Pokémon, the faster you'll evolve into Mega Slowbro X and Gourgeist X, allowing you to establish your board early and start applying pressure before your opponent is fully set up. Next up, we have 3 copies of Night Stretcher, one of the deck's best recovery cards. This item helps you get back important resources after your Pokémon have been knocked out or your energy has been discarded. When you play Night Stretcher, you choose either a Pokémon or a basic energy card from your discard pile and put it back into your hand. It's a simple effect, but it's incredibly valuable throughout the game. If one of your key attackers, like Mega Slowbro X, Gourgeist X, or Deoxys, ends up in the discard pile, Night Stretcher lets you recover it so you can get it back into play. If you're short on energy after using cards like Wally's Compassion or after losing a Pokémon with several energy attached, you can instead recover a basic psychic energy and continue powering up your next attacker. Because Night Stretcher is an item card, you can play it without using your supporter for the turn. That means you can recover an important Pokémon or energy and still play powerful supporters like Boss's Orders, Xerosic Machinations, or Jacynth on the very same turn. This card gives the deck excellent late-game consistency. Instead of running out of attackers or energy, Night Stretcher allows you to recycle your most important resources and stay in the game even after your opponent scores a knockout. That's why we're playing 3 copies. It provides reliable recovery throughout the match, helps you maintain constant pressure, and ensures you're never out of threats as the game goes on. Next up, we have 4 copies of Telepathic Psychic Energy, one of the most important cards in the entire deck. Not only does it provide energy, but it also helps you build your board, making it both an energy card and a consistency engine. As long as Telepathic Psychic Energy is attached to one of your Pokémon, it provides 1 psychic energy. However, its real strength comes from its powerful attachment effect. When you attach Telepathic Psychic Energy from your hand to one of your psychic Pokémon, you may search your deck for up to 2 basic psychic Pokémon and put them directly onto your bench. Then, you shuffle your deck. This effect is incredible because it lets you accelerate your setup without using your supporter for the turn. Instead of spending multiple turns trying to find your basic Pokémon, a single energy attachment can instantly fill your bench with key Pokémon like Slowpoke, Pumpkaboo, or Deoxys, allowing you to start evolving and preparing your attackers much faster. The card also creates excellent synergy with the rest of the deck. By getting multiple basic Pokémon into play early, you can evolve into Mega Slowbro X and Gourgeist X more consistently while giving yourself backup attackers if one of your Pokémon gets knocked out. The faster you establish your board, the sooner you can begin applying pressure and forcing your opponent onto the defensive. Another reason this card is so strong is that it combines energy acceleration and Pokémon search into a single card. Normally, you'd need one card to attach energy and another to search for Pokémon. Telepathic Psychic Energy accomplishes both at the same time, giving you incredible efficiency and helping you keep your supporter available for powerful plays like Boss's Orders, Xerosic Machinations, or Jacynth. That's why we're playing 4 copies. We want to maximize our chances of opening with this card, because the earlier we can fill our bench and establish our board, the more consistently this deck can execute its game plan and overwhelm our opponent from the very beginning. Next up, we have 3 copies of Wondrous Patch, one of the deck's key energy acceleration cards. This item helps us recover energy from the discard pile and quickly power up our attackers without relying only on manual energy attachments. When you play Wondrous Patch, you attach 1 basic psychic energy from your discard pile to one of your benched psychic Pokémon. This effect is incredibly valuable because many of our cards naturally move energy into the discard pile throughout the game. Instead of letting those energy cards go to waste, Wondrous Patch turns them into extra resources and allows us to keep building attackers on the bench. This card has excellent synergy with Mega Slowbro X, Gourgeist X, and Deoxys. If one of your attackers is knocked out, Wondrous Patch helps you immediately start powering up the next Pokémon, keeping constant pressure on your opponent. It also works especially well after using Wally's Compassion, since that card returns all energy attached to your Mega Evolution Pokémon back to your hand. Any basic psychic energy that ends up in the discard pile can be recovered with Wondrous Patch and attached to a benched attacker. Because Wondrous Patch is an item card, you can play it without using your supporter for the turn. That means you can accelerate energy while still using powerful supporters like Boss's Orders, Xerosic Machinations, Jacynth, or Dawn. Overall, Wondrous Patch gives this deck speed, consistency, and resilience. It ensures that you're always building your next attacker, even after losing Pokémon or discarding energy. That's why we're playing 3 copies. We want reliable access to energy acceleration throughout the game so we can keep attacking turn after turn without slowing down. Finally, we're running 8 copies of Psychic Energy to make sure our attackers stay consistently powered up and ready to battle every single turn. With energy acceleration from cards like Telepathic Psychic Energy and Wondrous Patch, this deck can keep building pressure from the early game all the way to the final knockout without losing momentum. And that brings us to the end of our master deck build featuring the powerful combination of Mega Slowbro X and Gourgeist X. This deck isn't just about dealing damage, it's about creating constant pressure, controlling the pace of the game, disrupting your opponent's resources, and forcing them into difficult decisions every single turn. If you enjoyed this deck breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to PokePlayLab_DBSHQ, and leave a comment letting me know your favorite combo from this deck or what deck you want to see featured next. Stay ready, stay sharp, because a true trainer is always prepared for whatever comes next. And remember, decks don't win games, prepared trainers do.